Hello everyone, how's it going? So exclusive, XDefiant is on borrowed time as player numbers decline rapidly. Now let's discuss this article, but before we get started, remember to like, sub, and share. If you like the video, it helps me a great deal. If you want to support, join, and super thanks supports the channel. And if you dislike the video, dislike it. So what is XDefiant? XDefiant is a live service hero shooter from Ubisoft where they mash together a bunch of their franchises into tactical-based first-person shooter combat. It was impressive when it launched. A lot of people were not expecting much from this game, but it was good enough. Like, it wasn't doing anything spectacular, it was just there to create a good first-person shooter environment. The problem is that the game did have a lot of issues. The first was that snipers were really overpowered, broken, to the point that everyone was just rocking snipers. There was very big toxicity, at least from my experience on Xbox, where people would just simply not play matches, and the kicking out option wasn't really there or working correctly. And ultimately, the game just didn't have a lot of aspects to it that gave it that kick that it needed in order to maintain itself in a live service market. Right now, live services are being churned out and they're dying very rapidly. Just look at Concord, and the very select few that still maintain themselves are the ones who are at the top of the pack. Games like Overwatch, Warframe, Fortnite, even Apex Legends, despite the game on borrowed time as well after the whole monetization scandal and then removing the mobile support for the mobile version. So a lot of people just don't really care about live service games anymore. People who see that remark automatically just dismiss the game because they don't have enough time to invest into other live services, and ultimately people are just going back to traditional single player and multiplayer games like Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and 16. Like, people are just more happy with those collective experiences than having to keep up with these things. But let's read the article. According to several sources at Ubisoft San Francisco has until the end of Season 3 of XDefiant to improve the game's bleak player numbers. Now, we don't have exact player numbers because this game is not on Steam. It's only through the Ubisoft launcher and console stores, so we don't know how many exact players there is. I'm pretty sure if this game is as bleak as they say it is, they're going to bring it back to Steam. That's what Activision Blizzard did and Microsoft did. It's like what Asmongold said. Gabe Newell won by doing nothing. Literally, he's winning by doing nothing. He doesn't have to do anything. People will come crawling back, and guess what? EA, Microsoft, Ubisoft, all these companies eventually release their games on Steam when it becomes so dire. XDefiant was all the buzz when it launched in May 2024. The game exceeded 1 million unique players in its first 2.5 hours, a Ubisoft record, and exceeded over 8 million players in its first week. Executives were thrilled at the title's future and even reported in the company's latest press release that XDefiant revenue contributed to Q1 2025 financial success. Congratulations, that's major. But now, just 6 weeks from its Q1 financial report, Ubisoft HQ wants player numbers to increase by Season 3 or XDefiant risks losing its much-needed post-launch support. At that point, it'll be dead and buried like I can't even remember that Ubisoft Battle Royale game that they launched. God, that was a long time. Remember, you know what I'm talking about, the one with the futuristic setting, and they kind of just try to pay people to play the game. I can't even remember the name. I'm pretty sure someone will. Internally, optimism for the game has shifted primarily due to the game's continuous decline in player numbers and lack of player spending. One source told me that the game has been struggling to obtain 20,000 concurrent player numbers of players across its platform, whereas another said that Ubisoft would probably be happy with that number. So that number is actually lower. That is insane. That's the average amount for Apex Legends, suggesting that it's much lower. Oh, God, yeah. The decline numbers have created tension and anxiety within the team, with sources who spoke to me believing that more layoffs are only a matter of time. Absolutely. Like, if this game is not even getting 20,000 players and this is a live service game, layoffs are about to come. And we've seen how blood-written the industry has been this year. Like, so many people lost their jobs, not just in gaming, but in the tech industry. They've been cutting costs ever since the pandemic has now stopped. And now people going back to work, they're not playing video games as much, or, they overhired, basically. And yeah, if they're not even getting 20,000 players, God, they're really, really bad. It's not Concord bad, but Concord is a paid game. This is a free-to-play game. So, yeah. And plus, when I played the game, the cosmetics sucked. Like, I was looking through the cosmetics. It literally just looked very generic and boring. It's not like Ubisoft San Francisco isn't already feeling the pressure either. Earlier this month, Ubisoft cut 45 jobs from its San Francisco, California, North Carolina, Carolina. I can't speak. Ubisoft cut 45 at its San Francisco, California, and North Carolina offices, with around 10 actively working on XDefiant, even more at the studio losing their jobs due to Rocksmith scaling down. Oh god, that sucks. I mean, another thing is that I think game industries are becoming more aware of the bloat that they're hiring. Look, I don't want to advocate for anyone losing their jobs. It does suck, but it seems that there's a real issue within the AAA industry where they overhire and they create a lot of bloat, which leads to increased friction and less synergy. Like, it's just a real problem. I mean, look at how From Software operates. Like, the studio reveals their games at an adequate time, and then they release the games on a decent schedule, and they usually work on day one. Look at how Armored Core 6 operated, Elden Ring. Like, as far as I can tell, they've never really had a major issue. Literally, Armored Core 6, when they launched the multiplayer competitive mode, it launched on day one working. So, granted, it's not as elaborate as, say, a game like XDefiant in its multiplayer efficiencies, but still, like, if you retain staff and you have a good synergy among your team, you can release games on an adequate schedule while maintaining cost. But that's something that a lot of game publishers don't do. Like, for example, look at what happened to Halo Infinite with the contract workers. So, yeah. Frustrations within the studio are aimed at the leadership, who have refused to take responsibility for the project's shortcomings, which could have been avoided with a better studio culture. In the late March 2022, I reported on the studio's toxic work culture. Yeah, Ubisoft was also one of those studios, and despite an internal investigation that included last month, I was told that the issues had been swept under the rug and that its problems were still prevalent. Sounds like what a company would do. HR is not there to protect the company. It's not there to protect their workers. It's there to protect the company. So, yeah, I 100% think we investigated ourselves and found no issues whatsoever. God. I shouldn't be laughing, but yeah. As for XDefiant's future, leadership is a bit betting on all their money on Season 3 to turn things around, but with Call of Duty Black Ops 6 set to release between Season 2 and 3, those who spoke are feeling pessimistic about the game's future. Oh yeah, it's not going to outdo Call of Duty. Like, unless Call of Duty Black Ops 6's entire launch is completely crap, and I mean worse than Call of Duty Cold War, which was terrible at launch. It had server crashing, it had multiplayer crashing, it had every type of crashing you can think of. And seeing that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is always online with the campaign and everything, and they have a history of just having major server issues, unless this game is like to the point of unplayability, I don't see anyone going to XDefiant to play that game when Call of Duty Black Ops 6 launches. Like, that's basically a death sentence, especially seeing that you're releasing within the same area of that. One source even went as far as to say, expect more Ubisoft San Francisco layoffs headlines within 6 months. Dude, wow. That is terrible. If you work or have worked in Ubisoft, all he said, contact him. So, yeah. Honestly, I want to say that I'm not surprised by this because, again, live services are basically I'm trying to think of a very kind way of saying this, but I can't. I'm just going to say it's one of the killing factors for games nowadays. Like, remember when Marvel's Avengers was announced as a live service? Boom, all gone, no one cared anymore. The second you say live service, people are just so really done with the game. It's like saying always online, which with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, in that case, they're going to win no matter what. They can do whatever they want. As we've seen, people will still buy the game no matter what. I still bought Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 despite it being a expansion for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 that they sold for technically over $100 at launch and then sold it for $70 after that. So in that case, I just can't see this game ever surviving in a market where there are so many other options, and not to mention that it just doesn't have that hook. There is no like magic golden needle to this game that makes it stand out as opposed to any other game. Like with Fortnite or Apex Legends, they have those legends and they have those cosmetics that just make them look so cool and badass. When I was playing this game, it had none of that. It had no thrill to it. It was just your standard bare bones FPS game with nothing to it. That's why, like, I know I'm going to say something controversial here, but Black Myth Wukong And it's like the gameplay isn't anything stellar. It's been done before. But what made it so good is the fact that its presentation is just so good. The boss fights are incredible, the animations are fantastic, but we've seen this before, but what makes it so good is the fact that it's refreshing. It took its world seriously. It made effort to make it look so incredible that you were thirsting to find what's in the next area, who the next boss is, and that's what made it so appealing. Granted, these are two different genres, but I hope you get what I'm saying where I say this game just doesn't have that click. It doesn't. Like, after I 100% the game just for the sake of, well, 99.9% the game just for the sake of doing it. Like, I literally had to force myself to do it because I was afraid that the game's numbers would become so dwindled that I wouldn't even be able to get a game if I decided to do it later. So, in that regard, I just see that this game is going to be dead. When the literal developers are saying, yeah, I better start sending my resume out, you know things are just dire. But tell me what you think about it in the comments below. If you liked XDefiant, if you played it, if you have any intention of playing it, I'd love to hear your opinion on it, especially with the relation to Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Till then, bye.